3, 2, 1. You can go ahead.
Action.
Hi, I'm Johnny Carson. No, in seriousness though, we're going to do some prayer requests this morning actually. And like I said, I am trying to get fired. That's why I'm going to do that. But did y'all
What
see
is
that?
this, Rod?
Isn't that cool? Where did those come
Something air
from?
show.
Oh,
Wonder.
wow, really cool.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna
Right.
let it
Yes, ma'am.
shine.
What is this? Air show.
Oh, I wrote that. That's me.
That's you?
He's going to the air show. He's got tickets.
Oh.
Oh, you're not going? Why didn't you
Air
use my
shows.
pen?
I'd rather be with y'all.
Why didn't you use that pen?
It
You
was
click
kinda-
it again.
The light was kind of like
No.
messing with my
Click
head.
it again, the next time the light's not
Light
on.
goes off. Yeah,
Oh, is that it?
yeah.
They're
If
from-
you don't use that lighted pen, you're gonna hurt Brenda's
Yeah,
feelings.
they're from Island Automotive.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, no plug here or anything, but. There you go,
There
but
you
you
go,
click it
Johnny.
again and the light goes on. Okay, now click
I
it
did
again.
not know. I
Act-
actually thought that was really cool.
Every
though.
other click is a light.
They're
Surely you
invaluable
had
in a
one of those as a
restaurant,
little
Francine.
boy.
Yeah.
Well, they don't teach that in CPA school.
I was fixing to say, surely the CPA knows how to operate
I
that.
know.
He's not.
You know, as I told my father-in-law, he said, you know, when I met him, he said, "So you're a glorified bean counter." And I said, "Yeah, you're right. I took your biggest liability off your hands. Your God." And I always tell people, they say, "Gee, you're a CPA. Let me ask you a tax question." I didn't do taxes. I hate taxes. And also, I do say this, a CPA means I took a test, I passed it, and I can sign an audit report, and I can get sued. So that's what the CPA means for me. But I met a gentleman Wednesday night, and I don't know if he's gonna be here, Charles Thompson. Remember, we met Charles at the men's. He is a CPA over in Brunswick, and he may be coming to this class. And one of the things about CPAs in Georgia is when you get your license, you get a number, and the number started with 1, or we think they started with 1. So it used to be a big joke. My license was 11570, so I was 11,570th when I got mine back in 1990 or 1989. My son just got his. He's like 60,000. So I'm like ragging him. You know, but back then I knew a guy that was like 400. And he was like 90 years old, his license number. So that was really cool. So we got to talking, and Charles told us, we were talking, the first thing his CPA says, "What's your license number? You know, you've been around a long time." His was like 5,000 and something. So anyway, I know y'all really wanted to hear that. I'm on tape on this. So,
Now you know.
That's interesting.
yeah.
It was interesting.
Okay, so we've got the Romeo lunch, 5:21. Al will be sending out. We got the fish fry Saturday. We talked about that at noon. We got the YouTube channel, which is really good though. I've actually watched that,
Yes, I have too.
and we got a lot of good things going on in church. But the most important thing to me is this today is Mother's Day. And to all the ladies in here, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And I am a firm believer in that.
It's true.
I totally believe that. You're going to hear this a lot this at 11 o'clock about submission, servant, things like that. But the mothers, the women in our lives make the world go round. Because Wednesday night, we learned what a bunch of guys that get together on the spur of a moment, we didn't have. We had like one vegetable. We had a lot of meat though. Nobody brought anything to drink, so they had to run out and grab some water. You put us in charge of things like that, or we put ourselves in charge, and we it's like somebody said we needed a woman here to like direct this.
But it looked great on those pictures. I mean, it looked like a great group of men.
It
having
was.
a good time.
And Jamie
Half of
gave
them
it.
had to stand up though.
Yeah, we had to stand. Well, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't know we had to. Poor Dan had to stand up with I'm trying to find him a chair, but we didn't have the chairs because we're guys. Nobody said, gee, we're going to do this outside, so bring a chair. Anyway, so I wanted to.
I bet you'll know better next time.
Yeah, that's the learning process, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
It was good.
It was good. And Jamie, and I don't know Jamie's last name.
Jamie,
Oliver.
Stacy, Oliver, yeah.
Yeah, Oliver gave an excellent, like a testimony. And it was actually, to me, it hit home in a lot of ways for me. And he did a really good job. So, the other thing I want to bring up too is, after the fish fry, we're probably going to, I don't know if Rebecca might have mentioned this, but she's going to be trying to have at least one get together every 3 months, maybe more. Because we do like to get together and we like to eat and we like to fellowship, and that's a good time to do it. So, does anybody have any prayer requests? Because I did hand out the cards. Rebecca will follow up because she's really good at sending out an email, but I just thought I'd throw it out this morning.
I have, we have a grandson that's in a big deal basketball tournament with a lot of teams. And we just need to pray that no one gets hurt.
He didn't tell you the grandson's 14 years old and 6'1". I said, okay, that's always good. I've got one, and it's just world events. India and Pakistan, they both have nuclear weapons, and
Yeah.
they don't really like each other, and they've been like throwing things at each other.
Didn't they come to an agreement though and have a ceasefire?
They did, but then they both accused each other of breaking it, so it's kind of like on and off. Truthfully, I believe they will back down because they know that nobody's going to win that fight between them. I think another one too is, of course, to pray for Israel in the Middle East. That is a total mess. And I, again, it's easy to have a hostage there as a family member, but then to say you trade the hostage for lives, I mean, it's such a tough decision. I've been dealing with helping a guy out with something, and he's Jewish. And he always knew him by David, but all of a sudden he changed his name to Azriel, and he said that was my Jewish given name, and I went to that because of what happened back in October the 7th in Israel. So.
Well, we also should pray for our country's unrest, these colleges and what they're trying to do, anti-Semitism and stuff like that. It's horrible. And our unsaved loved ones. Sally's not here to say it.
Yes, most
Her
definitely.
friends.
So it's going to be an interesting sermon, Mother's Day. I've never heard one taught like it was or preached like it was today. It was kind of interesting to me. Some of the things that he talks about, and I'm not giving anything away, so y'all still have to go. But it was very interesting.
I think we should pray that George Soros's agenda dies.
That was nicely put, Linda. That was put very well.
No, thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad agendas out here.
Josh probably went back. His agenda will live on.
It's funny, and I'll bring this up, and I can do this since Rebecca's not here. So, did you get that, Rebecca? See, I'm getting fired, y'all. I'm working hard at this. I was reading Revelation, and I always throw a lot out in Revelation, but I don't know why I was reading Revelation the other night. It was one of those. We were just in one of those Revelation. I think it was thundering and lightning. It's like it's Revelation time, and when you're reading about John, and he's sitting here, and Jesus is talking to him, and he's saying, "Hey, I'm going to give you these 7 letters in the beginning of it, the chapters 2 and 3 in the beginning, to give to these 7 churches." And one of the next to the last church is Philadelphia, the Church of Philadelphia, which is over in modern day Turkey, Asia Minor. And you read that letter, and if you want to, you can just go look. If you got a Bible, it's going to spell out each of them. But that's the one church that a letter was written that Jesus did not condemn that church at all. He just said, hey, you're doing what you need to do. You're poor, but you're rich. You're bringing people in. And I thought, wow, that's what we're trying to do. And the next church you read is, the last one is Laodicea. And I may not have pronounced that correctly, but it says, hey, you're neither hot nor cold. You're lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out. I mean, just rails them, just totally rails them. And that's the church age that we're in now today. That we can't decide what we need to do. And that's actually leading into where I'm going with this today. And since we're on TV and somebody may be at home, we're going to be coming out of 2 Timothy chapter 4. That's the whole thing of this. And this is 2 Timothy is Paul's last letter that we know of, that he wrote. We think it was written in 1967. I am really getting fired. We think it was written in 67 AD, somewhere around there. Paul is in prison in Rome, and he's not in house prison. He's in like prison. He's in a terrible place. He's pretty much at the end of the road for him. In fact, the church, all the church historians believe that he was probably martyred probably 3 months after that letter was written. And he's writing to Timothy. And it's because he was martyred because of Nero martyred him. Remember, Nero had a little fire in Rome, I don't know if he was playing the fiddle or not. I don't know if that's true or not, but there's a fire in Rome. Who does Nero blame? You got to blame somebody when you're in charge. The Christians. These Jews that are teaching this about this Jesus Christ. So what does he do? He goes out and he begins. So Paul is beheaded. I mean, because he's a Roman citizen. He gets the nice beheading. Well, some church tradition has this, and I'm not sure I buy this, but that Peter was probably martyred on the same day. But I think Peter was martyred in the same period, except Peter was crucified because he wasn't a Roman citizen. And he was crucified, does anybody know how? Upside down. Yeah, exactly. And as I like to tell Dale Provenzano when we were doing the Maundy Thursday, he was also the first pope of the Catholic Church. Since he was in there, Dale was messing with me, so I had to shoot back at him. Since he was playing Peter and I was doing John, I said, yeah, I didn't go in the Transfiguration and go ask Moses and Elijah, could I put tents up for them there, Dale? But anyway, I digress. We were having a good time with that. So this is like the final chapter of what we know of Paul's writing. And that's why I wrote my thing about a goodbye. And this has always been kind of an emotional thing for me. And I just was led to do this because I always liked Paul. I always pictured Paul as this short guy, which I don't know that. But the paintings you see of him, he looks kind of short. But this short little fire plug guy that he would do whatever it took to get us, to rebuke us, to teach us, to bring us. Because not only was he a gifted Pharisee, I mean, he was a student of Gamaliel, who was a famous guy. And I didn't probably pronounce that right either, Rebecca, I'm sorry. But he was a guy that God took, and it's always amazed me how God works like this. He takes this Pharisee who was just out for blood, goes out and he's ready to kill Christians, sits there when Stephen gets stoned, holds the cloaks, which means, he was all for that. he's heading up to Damascus. He's ready to he's going to destroy this new religion called the Way. And he meets somebody he doesn't expect on the road to Damascus. And he gets blinded. And he meets Christ. And what does Christ say to him? Does anybody remember that? Why are you persecuting me? I mean, why are you persecuting my people? Great job. So Paul then goes 180, and he's a ferocious, he's out there. Now, the one thing that always got me, though, with Paul was I thought, since you're a Pharisee, why weren't you sent to the Jewish people because you were the Pharisee to convert them? But no, he was sent to the Gentiles. And I to this day, I never, here's me asking God.
Yes.
Exactly. Why? And it's like, I do what I want to do, Rob, so that's why you're facilitating, you're going to get fired. So anyway, I'm still working on it. So let's just start here. And if somebody would like to read verses 1 through 5.
In the presence of God and of Christ Jesus, who will judge the living and the dead, and in view of his appearing and his kingdom, I give you this charge. Preach the word. Be prepared in season and out of season. Correct, rebuke, and encourage with great patience and careful instruction. For the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths. But you, keep your head in all situations, endure hardship, do the work of an evangelist, discharge all the duties of your ministry.
Okay. That's Paul writing to Timothy, but he's also writing to us. It's really, and it sounds just like something today. And that's why. So if you look at this, in the presence of God and of Jesus Christ, who will judge the living and the dead, I give you this charge. I give you this charge, Timothy. I give you this charge, Rob. I give you this charge, our class. I give you a charge. And then again, we're looking at Paul. He's in prison. He's probably, in 1 year, no matter what they say, in 1 year he's gone. This is it. He's at the end of the line. So, what does it mean to give a charge?
Give an assignment.
Assignment. Yeah. I'm giving you an assignment or a challenge, or I'm telling you what to do. This is what I need you to do. And at the time, we think Timothy was over in Ephesus, while Paul is up here. So he sends a letter to Timothy. Actually, the Greek word for this is, so I want to throw a Greek word in here that I can't pronounce. Diamartumia. It's also translated mostly as testify or giving a command, like testifying in court. You can use it either way. And I think both of these can fit the bill for this. So, Jesus Christ, who will judge the living and the dead, and last time I got up here and I talked to y'all, I talked about this a little bit. And when Jesus Christ said on the cross, it is finished, the Greek was paid in full. So he's going to judge the living and the dead. But he's already paid our price. The judge has been satisfied. So, preach the word. Be prepared in season and out of season. Does anybody know what we're talking about here? Because this one's always hard for me. When you're talking to somebody that doesn't know anything, or maybe they don't really study the Bible or they haven't been exposed. And it says, preach the word, get out there and talk the word, talk to somebody, be prepared in season and out of season. To correct, rebuke, and encourage is to, when somebody says, well, how do you know Jesus lived? These are tough. These can be tough questions when you're just sitting there, when you say, well, I just know through my faith. All right, what's faith? It can like spiral down different ways. And for me, my answer has always been to this because I read this book. And in this book, when I start at the beginning and I go to the end, everything else leads up to this guy from a forensic side, for however you want to look at it. It all fits together. I've said this before so many times in this class, but it fits together too well. Over, 2,000 years these books were written? And the prophecies, it's not like they had Google back then or AI that could look back and say, well, we need to, because Abraham said this, we need to go all the way up 2,000 years later and do this. No. It's
Prophecy.
too good. It fits together too well. So you got to be ready. And with Paul, and he says, with great patience and careful instruction. Well, Paul's a good one to talk about patience, because a lot of times Paul did not have patience. And I totally get that. But we have to, because, the thing that bothered me growing up was people would take this and they would say, you're 18 years old, you're 17 years old, you're 16 years old, and you're out there drinking alcohol and you're having a good time. You shouldn't do this. Let me beat you over the head with this. That's not how you get, especially somebody at that age, to do it. And you don't get it to this age to do it. That was a fact.
The tricky thing is rebuke and correct. And that's, that rebuking, you have to really know the word to be able to do that.
Exactly. And we're not talking about like this morning, which I'm really going to get fired now, when the pastor said that Michael came to Mary, it was actually Gabriel, but that's okay. Sorry, y'all. Y'all weren't there for that, but I've done that myself. Am I fired now? So it's an excellent point on that. Well, the time will come, and you know what? That time is here. Verse 3. When people will not put up with sound doctrine. Now, what do y'all think about that? Do you think people today, is it just me? Did we just go through a huge fight about doctrine? Did the Methodist Church, and again, I'm picking on the Methodist Church, but it's the easiest one for me to shoot this morning. Did they just say, hey, the pastor can decide whether to marry anybody they want to, no matter what the church says? They just came out with that. This is what I'm talking about, sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. Mm-hmm. And not only in the church, but we do that out in life. But in the church especially, we should, as long as we're staying in the book, as long as we're staying in the Word and we're not adding on to it, and the book of Revelation is perfect. Don't take away from this book. Don't add on to this book. This is it. Then, that's the whole thing that it gets me is I watch some of these YouTube videos, and as soon as I see somebody says, but if we look at it this way, and I get it. They say, hey, have you ever thought about it this way? I'm okay with that. But if you look at it, it should be like this instead of like this. And as soon as I hear it, but there was probably a mess up in the Greek, right then my ears are just, it's time to change the channel. So they will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths. Well, do we see that today? This is Paul writing this, 2,000 years ago? Mm. It is so true over the time. Is there myths out there? Is there different? You know, I always do the Mormon thing. I'll get away from the Mormon thing today. How about we do a little bit of the Catholic? And I'm not trying to shoot the Catholics because they have a new pope and he's American, but the thing is, you know, Martin Luther said, I didn't know Jesus until I was able to read a book. And that started the Reformation, you know, where, hey, maybe we need to change the way we look at everything. Maybe we don't need to listen to one person, one man tell us what to do. And that's the same thing as we're looking at. But you, and this is verse 5, but you keep your head in all situations. Timothy, Rob, Dan, I want to work Dan in here. Endure hardships, do the work of an evangelist, discharge all the duties of your ministry. This is Paul taking Timothy, who he loved like a son. I think if anybody, this was, just from reading, this was his favorite. Besides Luke, I think Luke was probably he had just a small group that it was really his favorites. But one of the things I always liked about this is, if you look at the ESV for the same verse, it says, it uses the word here, but you keep your head in all situations, but it says, keep your head sober-minded and on the goal. And that's something, you know, sometimes that's hard to do. So Paul has just laid out a charge to Timothy and us. And now here's the part that always got me right here. And I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this verse 6 through 8. For I am already being poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure is near. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. Paul, for 35 years, this is about 35 years since the road to Damascus. We don't know exactly know. You know, back then we didn't have the Google calendars and all that, but for 35 years, I've been poured out like a drink offering. And does anybody remember back in, you can go back all the way into Exodus, you know, about the drink offerings was another poured out at the temple. You put it up there and you pour out a drink offering. Basically, you use it all up. You pour it all. I poured everything I have out. Because my departure is near. I've left it all, okay, a sports analogy. I left it all on the floor. I walked out of there. I've done everything I was told to do. And it's time for me to go. I fought the good fight. I have finished the race. Nobody ever accused Paul of not fighting the good fight. Nobody accused Paul of not finishing the race. Paul liked to use the word race about how his ministry was like a race. He was trying to reach a finish line. In fact, and I wrote this down because I was really curious about how many times Paul talked about using the race. He did it in Philippians. He did it in the book of Corinthians, 2 Corinthians actually. It was also mentioned in Acts, and that wasn't Paul writing that, but that was Luke. But that's, still, it's a race. I have kept what? The faith. He kept the faith. And what amazes me about him keeping the faith is, would somebody like to turn around and read 2 Corinthians chapter 11? I got verses 21 all the way down through that.
Whatever anyone else dares to boast about, I am speaking as a fool. I also dare to boast about. Are they the Hebrews? So am I. Are they the Israelites? So am I. Are they Abraham's descendants? So am I. Are the servants of Christ? I am out of my mind to talk like this. I am more. I have worked much harder, been in prison more frequently, been flogged more severely, and been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I have been constantly on the move. I have been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false believers. I have labored and toiled, have often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst, have often gone without food. I have been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches. Wow.
You think Paul ran the race?
Absolutely.
Golly.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, you read that and he says, hey, he says, does anyone else dare to boast? And you think, you know, he's really not boasting. What's happening, you know, we got to go back to the context of this, is in that church of Corinth, they're questioning about his apostolistic, somebody say the word. That was close. They're questioning, hey, what right do you have to say this? And he's telling them, hey, this is what I've been through. And he's doing it with sarcasm. You notice that? And he's saying, well, you know, I'm just going to boast. And it's like and then he says, you know what? Jesus had me the whole time. But think about that. You know, if anybody had any right to sit there and lay it out, it was Paul. I mean, to go through all of that and to still have faith, I can't say. I thought to myself, you grow up in Alabama, the whole thing is, you know what, you're a tough guy and you can do anything. I read this and I have to look inside me and I'm thinking, you know what, I probably would have said, God, I've had enough. You know, I can't put up with this. It's going to drive me crazy. But he kept doing it. And because he did, because his faith was that strong, which is a faith that I wish my faith was that strong. It's not there yet. You know, and sometimes that bothers me. I'm just speaking for myself now. I'm not speaking for you good folks. But what's in store for him switching back over? He knows what he gets at the finish line. What does he get?
Crown of righteousness.
A crown of righteousness. That's not in the Greek, that's not a royal crown. That's a crown of like, victory? It's actually the Greek word. He's getting a crown of victory, of righteousness. And who will award that to him? The Lord. The Lord. Well done, my servant. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. I tell y'all, this is a very emotional one for me because, and again, I always do this, and I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm going to do it again. I put my own life in this and think about if I'm back here, how I would handle it. Y'all, I would have tapped out right at the beginning. You know, the first 39 licks, probably on the first 4, I would have been gone. You know, shipwrecked. I don't get seasick, but I don't want to be shipwrecked. I mean, the things that he did to go spread the gospel. He went on 3 mission trips? Possibly a 4th out there. There's a lot of back and forth on that. But he did it all. And now this is his goodbye. And this has nothing to do with my weenie dog either. I just want to go on record again. Because I wasn't on tape when I talked about that. So.
Rob, do you know what? We think, I mean, maybe I'm just thinking this,
Yeah.
that we think we've lived our life and we've loved Jesus all of our life. And when people have been in need, we've prayed and we've helped people and encouraged. But we've done nothing. Nothing. I feel like nothing.
That's why I'm trying to get across. Thank you. You laid out exactly how I feel. I look at, gee, I did this and I did that and I helped this person out and I helped this ministry out over time and boy, I got up there and I actually preached in Jerry's church or I preached in these other church, when he was moving. I did nothing. I did nothing. And I think to myself, I need to do more. I need to get off my duff. And I need to, and I'm not talking about y'all, I'm talking about me. I need to do more. And I read this and it gets me like, golly. Paul could have walked right back into the synagogue and, hey, welcome back. Here's your robe. And, sometimes maybe I need to go on a walk to Darien and hope I run into, actually, I don't really want to run into what Paul ran into. 3 days of blind. Now that's kind of scary to me, but actually that would be kind of cool though in a way. Anyway, but thank you, Brenda. That's really it. I'm going to hit another part here, the personal remarks. This is where it kind of hits me right here too. And this is always, he writes to Timothy, do your best to come to me quickly. We never know if Timothy made it or not. But him to write that, do your best to come to me quickly. For Demas, because he loved this world, has deserted me and has gone to Thessalonica. I cannot pronounce words today. So help me out, someone.
Thessalonica.
Thank you so much. Crescens has gone to Galatia and Titus to Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me. Now, Demas, he loved the world. He's deserted me. And I said, I always like to look up and say, okay. Well, in the back here in Colossians 4, when he ended his letter, the Colossians epistle, he wrote, our dear friend Luke, the doctor of Demas, send greetings. He also wrote in the book of Philemon, or Philemon as a guy told me once, I don't know, but he wrote the back of that, that's actually a letter, that's a letter, really not an epistle as much as a letter. He writes back Demas' name again. So Demas was very close to him. But Demas is what? He loved what? The world? And he's deserted Paul. Who does he say? Only Luke is with me. Okay, I'm throwing Luke out because we're starting a study of Luke next week. I got it on record right there. Y'all, I'm going to get in trouble for my joking one day in here, and I apologize. But you know what? God has a sense of humor we want to have when we're creating his own image. So, only Luke is with me. Get Mark and bring him with you, because he is helpful to my ministry. Okay, I want to just touch real base on this. He's talking about John Mark. The Gospel of Mark was written by John Mark. The coolest thing about this to me was, in his first mission trip, he took Mark with him. Mark was a young man. Halfway through, Mark kind of goes off the deep end and leaves. I don't know, if you study Acts, you'll see this. Mark left and I had to send him away. He was causing trouble. Then, on the second trip, I keep saying mission trip, but it is really a mission trip. He's visiting the churches. He takes Barnabas with him. Well, Barnabas, his best friend, was Mark. And he says, hey, Paul, we need to take Mark with us. And Paul says, I'm not taking him again. He jumped off the boat on the last one. Mm-hmm. So Barnabas says, you know what, if he doesn't go, I don't go. So Barnabas and Mark went on their own way for the second one. But what I love about this is now Mark is back. Something has happened that Mark is He's grown up. He's matured. Maybe Paul's matured. And now he says, hey, send Mark because he is helpful to me in my ministry. Such a loving way of putting that. As you know, as you show, even though you may start off like Mark, and whatever he did, you know, maybe you start off and you're falling off the boat and all this, you can come back. That's always so cool to me is things like this. So I sent Tychicus to Ephesus. And because Timothy's at Ephesus, he writes, when you come, bring the cloak that I left with Carpus at Troas and my scrolls, especially the parchments. Paul really didn't have much. Bring my cloak, because I'm cold. They're not giving me anything here. But you know what? More importantly, bring my parchments, because what are those? Those are my scriptures. Those are my things that I need. Verse 14. I like this too. This one really caught me. Alexander the metal worker did me a great deal of harm. The Lord will repay him for what he has done. You know what? I'm from Alabama. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But what does Paul say? The Lord will handle it. I am not that guy. Because if that guy would have wronged me, you know, that was the Rob that I was. And that really just jumped out at me. But then he gives a warning to Timothy. You too should be on your guard against him because he strongly opposed our message. There's nothing, I can't find anything out there on Alexander. But for him to end up in the letter and God will deal with him, I feel for him. I really did reading it. Alexander, you know, like, hey, Rob, I made a lot of wrong choices. You did too, buddy. So, I'm doing all the reading. Would somebody like to read 16 and 8 through 18 right here?
Okay. At my first defense, no one came to my support, but everyone deserted me. May it not be held against them. But the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength, so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed, and all the Gentiles might hear it. And I was delivered from the lion's mouth. The Lord will rescue me from every evil attack, and will bring me safely to his heavenly kingdom. To him be glory forever and ever. Amen.
Okay. We don't really know what defense he was talking about because we just read a lot about Paul, but Paul was always, you know, if you read Acts, if you read some of the different epistles, he was always in trouble with somebody because he wasn't following the rules, and he was following what he was told to do by the Lord. And I always like this. In my first defense, no one came to my support, but everybody deserted me. Does that sound familiar? You know somebody else that happened to? I'm not saying Paul and Jesus, but I'm just saying it's the same thing. And what does he say next? May it not be held against them. Isn't that such wow, that's like what Jesus said. What did Jesus say up on the cross about those that pierced him, those that beat him, those that crucified him? Forgive him. Yeah. That's what Paul's saying, the same thing here. May it not be held against him. When Stephen was sitting there getting stoned, what was Stephen's last words? Does anybody remember that? Father, forgive them, for they know what they do. If I'm getting stoned, do you think I'm going to be saying that? This is what faith is. This is what you can look up, and this is what and I'm not making a good showing of this. What I'm trying to say is, but what I'm trying to say is I read this and I think, these guys had so much faith that where I sit here and I look at this from such a humanly nature, from such an Adam type of nature, I'll use Adam for that, from such a manly nature, that I'm not looking at the big picture of, you know what, there is a crown waiting for me. when this stoning is over, I'm going to be in the bosom next to Jesus. And that's hard, though. That's hard for me. I'm not saying for y'all. Because, heck, he says here, the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength, so that through me, the message, your message, may be fully proclaimed. And was he delivered from the lion's mouth? I mean, never talked about being attacked by a lion, but he's using a metaphor here. Yeah, we read about all the times, Jesus. In fact, there was a couple of times Jesus, where he says, hey, I'm going to go up to here. And Jesus says, no, you don't go there. You go this way. So, Paul did have a little hard-headed streak. And who does he give the glory to? Yeah. Would somebody like to read 19 through 22? I'm not like Rebecca. I don't call y'all out. Dan? John?
My arms are a little longer.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You didn't have your
Bear with
glasses.
me. Greet Priscillus, yeah. And why'd you give this to me?
Yeah,
It's got some hard ones in there.
yeah, he doesn't have his glasses. I'm sorry. Don't worry about it, Dan. You have your
The
glasses.
household of Onesiphorus.
Close enough.
Stay in Corinth. I left Trophimus sick in Lancaster. Did your best to get here before winter. Eubulus greet you, and so did Ferdinand, Linus, Claudia, and all the brothers and sisters. The Lord be with your spirit. Grace be with you all.
Thank you, Dan. Sorry, I forgot you didn't have your glasses. I didn't mean to throw you out on that.
Well,
I know you'd have thrown me out,
stumbled
though.
on those words.
That's all right, man.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah, you're getting some of those, especially, these, and then you get some of the, I'm going to just digress a little bit. You're getting some of those, like Genesis, where you get into all the kings that were in Sodom and Gomorrah, and you try to read those names, and you're like, and then you listen to, like, Bible on tape, and they're just, like, rolling them out. I'm like, no. His last words, he just says goodbye. Priscilla was out there. Priscilla was, I think, in a lot of these right here. In fact, I think she became an apostle later on. So, his last written words that we know of, the Lord be with your spirit, grace be with you all. He went out and he ended like that, and that was the last words that we had. And you go back and you look at the New Testament that we have. He was such a huge part of that. I mean, so many different books. Was it like 12, I think? And the thing that it always got me about this is, and I did this today, I had a Mother's Day lesson I was going to do. And then I also had another lesson I was going to do, was following up the last time I was up here when I got to talk about Jesus on the cross. I was going to do why Jesus had to die. And when I was like dusting up both of those, trying to like flip a coin because I'm stupid and didn't ask God what I should talk about, I ended up in Timothy, 2 Timothy, and I ran into this, and it's like, you need to get up and this is it. This is you right here. You need to lay this out. So that was it. So I do have two more if I don't get fired, if you really need me. But that's how it works for me. And this one just was something that just, Rebecca sends me the email and says, what do you want to title? You want to title this? Yeah. It's a loving goodbye. And this is what this is from Paul. Because I always liked Paul. I just Always been a big fan of Paul. I like Peter too, though, because Peter was kind of like a doofus in the beginning to me. And I say that, you know, and that's really mean the way I say that, but I look at Peter, the things he said are things like I would have said. So I'm putting myself like in a doofus type of, I was the same way. But Paul to me is the one that was an expert at the Old Testament. Could probably just quote the whole thing like Rebecca can get up there and do. So he knew that everything fit the prophecies of what we were going to run into. And then, you know, he, of course, you know, supposedly he's buried. Is he outside the Sistine? I think he's outside the Sistine Chapel over there. There's a St. Paul graveyard. They dug it up about 20 years ago, and they said, yeah, the guy's back from that age. I don't know. You know, it doesn't matter. He's up here. I don't think he really cares. Unless you're Catholic, he kind of does care. So I did want to also do something else, because I always talk about facilitating. I did put James 3:1 on here.
Notice that.
Yeah. Not many of you should become teachers. This has Rob in my Bible written up there. My fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly. Like I said, I'm a facilitator. I got enough problems. Rebecca, that's you. And I did not light the candle, and I'm so sorry. I wish somebody would. And then I didn't even pray at the beginning of this either. I totally blew it up. You weren't here. That camera really threw me off.
You're gonna get cleared.
Rob, you know, it's funny, but I think Paul is God's example to us as to his transition. I mean, he went from evil to, I mean, just godly, you know, with all the faith. And so a lot of people have actually left the evil as him as an example, you know, because God can change people completely.
Exactly, because Paul says himself, I was a murderer.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, he murdered Stephen. And look what God did with him. You know, it's amazing. You know, you go through the Bible. I think I told y'all this, but I'll just say it again. It always amazed me is, you know, I never read the Bible because I thought, man, I'm going to read this book and all these perfect guys, and it's going to make me feel guilty because they're all perfect. Like I said, I didn't do half the things them cats did, you know. You know, I mean, you read it, and people say, you know, it's not real. Then why wouldn't we have, if it was not real, then we would have done a book on perfect, everything would have been perfect. Oh, it's perfect. We'd have blamed it all on Eve, which it should have, Adam's his fault. It's not written like that. It doesn't gild the lily, as my wife says. They don't gild the lily the way they wrote that. So, anything else?
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'd like to close in prayer since I didn't open in prayer and I did not light the candle. I'm sorry.
We should wish David Mitchell a happy birthday.
Oh, is it his birthday?
Let's sing happy birthday.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
You gotta turn the camera around when you sing it, okay?
Oh, no.
Okay, let it
David
rip.
Mitchell,
Our president.
happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear David. Happy birthday to you.
Hey, we need to thank David and Rebecca for all they do for this class. They really took this class and did a lot of things. And in all seriousness, I say that. I mean, she really, and he as well, but mostly her. I'm going to give her the credit. I'm not going to give him that much credit. Because he's a guy. He'd screw it up. I know that. But she really has. Would somebody like to close us in prayer? Well, I will. Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah. Lord, thank you for this special time when we can meet together and hear your word proclaimed. Lord, it draws us closer to you each time we experience this opportunity. And we just thank you for the blessings this day. Pray you lead us and guide us and direct us in all that we do. In Christ's name we ask it.
Amen.
Thank you.
And also, you guys, Wednesday night supper.
Yes.
So don't forget to sign up and.
This is the last one until
last
fall.
one, yeah, until fall.
Sounds like a good time too.
Yeah.
Like a talent show.
What'd you say?